All right. I think I'm getting a giant flashing live countdown ticker to the upper left. So, hello from Chappaqua, wherever that is. That does not sound like it's from New Mexico. That's from somewhere else. So, hey, hopefully everybody can hear me. Just as a testing procedure, someone ping me in the chat and make sure that you can hear me. All right. Pretty sure you can. We're live. I see Edison. I see Mychik. And Greg, what's happening? I see a lot of people I know, which is great. I see Greg, I see Thor, I see Eric, Simon, Tim, Pam, Linda. Yeah, tons and tons of greetings from Austria. Holodan, Zanny from Seattle. So, okay, apparently you can all hear me. So, one quick question just to get everybody warmed up. What was your gateway? So, in birding, there's something called the gateway bird, which is the bird that basically forced you from being a casual observer to a birder. Mine was the woodhouse scrub jay, which is not exactly some sort of fancy exotic bird, but the scrub jay is devious. They get over on each other all the time. They're deviants, which is why I like them. That was the bird that turned me sort of into kind of a birder. What was your gateway camera? What was the camera that got you into photography? Mine was this awful Nikon thing that was kind of pre-digital, but they were trying to hint at the fact that maybe digital was coming, and it was still a film camera, but the dials, it was awful. I just walked around my neighborhood in Texas and made some terrible photographs, but it was the first one that I thought, if I had intention behind this camera, then I might be able to do something interesting. Minolta X300, never heard of it. Pentax K1000, yes, that was my mom's camera. Minolta, Nikon F2A, Greg, that's a sexy camera right there. Very nice. You could also pound nails with that if you had to. F3 also, I have an F3 still. And D800. Whoa, Edison. That's you're new to this game. Peter, Kodak Brownie. Okay, you're kind of dating yourself a little bit there. But Peter, I still love you. Hopefully we'll see you later this year or early next year in Germany. Jim, Nikon EM, Minolta Film, Minolta 700, 5D Mark II, FTB. I don't know this Nikon EM. I've never heard of that. Olympus OMD. Okay, it's cool. Okay, that's cool. We're warmed up. What I like there is a blend of like old school film cameras and also some of the newer digital stuff. So we've got people coming in from all over. Okay, before we get to the portfolio reviews and before I share my screen, I need to go through a similar list that I went through last time. And this is for people who have not, who are on this call, but they've never submitted anything to an image breakdown before. And by the way, this is not the last image breakdown we're going to do. And there are people I'm not going to get to. And so for those of you out there, Megan, Zenny, some of the people who'd sent in stuff before, I probably am not going to get to you this time because I got to some of you last time. Just know that we're going to continue to do these image breakdowns, and I'll try to get to people again in the future. Choking up over the whole thing. I'm starting to tear up. Okay. First of all, you guys are doing awesome. And there's one little tiny quick story. This goes back maybe 20 years. I was in front of a really famous photographer who I adored. He was like an idol of mine. And this guy had been shooting for like 40 years, documentary style photography, but he'd also done a lot of commercial and editorial assignments and things like that. He's a famous guy. He's been a photographer for a long, long time. And what I was trying to get at was whether or not he could edit his entire life down to a handful of images. If he really had to, because he'd done so many of the same things again and again and again. When you get good at something, you're often asked to do it again and again. And I was in the process of trying to explain what I was trying to do. I was trying to explain, to ask him if he could edit his life down. And before I finished mangling the description of what I was trying to say, he said, about 10. About 10. You could sum up my entire career in about 10 images. Keep that in mind. That is what we're after here. So if you can make one or two life images per year, you are a superstar. I have not made a life image in several years. I've made images that have made books, and I've made images that I think are okay for what their application is. But lifelong images that define you are incredibly rare. They're difficult. So just keep that in mind. Don't set your expectation level to some crazy level. Okay, let's go through these points and then we're going to get to the people. I'm not here to crush you. You know, I studied photojournalism. I have a degree in photojournalism. I worked for 28, 30 years as a photographer. I still do photography from Blurb from time to time. I do my own projects. I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of assisting for other photographers. But here's the thing. I'm one person. I'm one person with one opinion. And just because I say something about your work doesn't mean that that is the be all end all rule. You are the author and you're ultimately responsible for your work. I'm just here to support you. I'm not here to crush you. I don't believe in that style of critique for me to crush you down and say that your work's not good. I would never do that. And if you run into people that do that, to me, it often says more about them than you. All of you, when you're submitting files, you should put your name on your files. And I have to say this time around, after this is the third one we've done, everybody who submitted images had their name on their files and I was easily able to identify. So well done. If I have an online conversation with you going in the background, so again, Megan, I know, Zenny, I know, Kurt, I know, a lot of the people that submitted. Kurt, I'm going to look at your work today, but you know, you and I know each other a couple years now online. So if we have an online conversation going, then I may or may not get to you in these image reviews. If you have more than one image, please submit more than one image at a time, because it's very hard to me to get a gauge of you as a photographer with a single image. Someone sent me a note this morning saying they had only sent one image and a long explanation. And I said, I've already picked everybody for today. And also one image, come on, like serve me up a little bit more. I want to kind of get a better idea of who you are on a consistent level as a photographer. Street photography, I made this mention last time. I see a lot of street photography. So if you're going to enter street photography or send this stuff in, I'm happy to look at it. But when it comes to street in particular, you're going to kind of want to find a way to put your fingerprints on that work, because a lot of the street photography I see looks exactly the same. So it's hard after a while when I've seen those kind of pictures so many times, you're like, And some people submitted street today. There's a couple of pictures I want to mention and why I like them. And then there's some others that are kind of like, you got to kind of have to go one step further. The next point is you don't have to avoid random. But if you send me 5 pictures and they're all of different things, I can look at them individually, and I can sometimes find a theme or a thread in your work, but it's always really fun to look at a theme-based set of images. So that's an option. Next point, there's 4 left. Film makes no difference to me, whether you shot film or digital. So if you're sending film and like your description is all about film, that's not exactly, anything novel at this point. So I judged a contest a while back, and I would say 40% of the entries spoke more about them using film than the actual work itself. And I didn't select a single one of those people as people that should move on in that contest. So film doesn't matter. Next point, write that little synopsis. And I have to say, everybody that I chose today pulled that synopsis and it looks great. So well done. And this is the new point. So when you're sending files for something like this, 72 DPI at whatever, 3000 pixels, 72 DPI, even 2000 pixels, 72 DPI, that's plenty big enough to send. Someone sent 130 megabyte TIFF files. Now, that file is too large for me to even use in the software that I use to do these critiques, which is a problem, which meant I couldn't use any of those files. And I didn't really have time to resize all of them. But here's the thing. Here's the real problem with that. If you don't know me and I send those files, you send files to me and they're 130 meg TIFF files, I can submit those to a stock agency as my own work. I can make posters of that. I can put those in a book. No one's going to know, and I can claim those are mine. And by the way, the reason I'm telling you this is all of these things have happened to me. I had someone dig my images out of a trash can at the photo lab, scan them and use them and claim them as their own. So there's a lot of nefarious folks out there. And if you're sending 130 meg TIFF files around, there's kind of unlimited uses for those files, and you don't want that. And so you want to keep your files at 72 DPI, and you want to make sure they're small enough that people can't take those and print them or submit them or use them in books or magazines. So that's really the only new tip that I'm adding this week. The last point is don't rush trying to get good. Getting good takes practice. That's really what we're here for. Okay, let me just check here, make sure there's no major events happening. Private chat is quiet. Oh, by the way, before we go any further, we got to thank the Blurb team behind the scenes. We have Michelle and Kara behind the scenes working. Without those two, I would not be sitting here. I would not be able to do this event. And it really takes a team of people to do this, not only in the logistics of today, but also the preparation and the marketing and then the follow-up. So you have those two to thank. We all have those two to thank for doing this. All right, so I am going to share my screen now. And let's see here. Okay, share my screen and make sure I'm not dropping the, let's see, entire screen, share. Okay, so this, I'm going to move down. Those are my notes. And hopefully everybody can see my screen like this. And then if not, hopefully someone will alert me. If you guys can't see my the screen, someone will alert me. But this is the first person we are looking at, who is Monica. And this is a really interesting project that we were talking about before this call started, how much we all liked this project. And this is Monica's a mom with, and basically was saying, look, this is a self-portrait project I've titled Proof of Mom. I see myself more as the family documentarian rather than the family photographer. This project was born of a quest to find a way to include myself in the story of my family. I didn't want to be excluded because I was the one taking pictures. So much of the mom's work is invisible. I refuse to be invisible. What started as just a proof, I was there to has evolved into an exploration of how I see myself as a parent. I'm a guide for my kids, a coach of their resiliency, and I'm still a playful soul at heart. So this is a common thing. We were talking before the call started. My mother was our family documentarian until the day she wasn't. And she looked at me and said, I'm out, you're in, and it's your job to record the family. And when you're the one doing the recording, you're never in the photograph. So I love this idea of finding a way to keep yourself relevant in the family album. Even though everyone knows you're making the pictures, it's kind of an afterthought. Everyone's like, yeah, whatever. But now she's worked her way in. So this first picture is interesting. It took me a second to figure out what this was. Obviously, there's the bubble here. So let's just back this off to basic photography craft here. I like this crop. I know that he has another side of his head. I don't need to see it. And so I like that crop, but this is really where the nucleus of this project is, which is inside of there. You can see Monica's reflection, and she's basically finding ways to keep herself in these photographs, even though the photographs are of her children. And also, like, I'm guessing that pretty much everybody on this call has at some point or another tried to photograph someone doing the bubble thing on the street. I just did this in, I can't even remember what city I was in. Was it Albania or somewhere else? And of course, I didn't get anything. They're all like out of focus. So to get this in focus is pretty solid. But this is the one that I love the most. I think this is obviously, this is Monica right here and reflected in the image. And I love this little tiny hand and the stubby little fingers holding the spoons. I really like this. There is one thing, however, right here. So Monica, when the human eye turns the page of a book, the first thing it will do is go to the upper right-hand corner of that page, regardless of what's there. The second thing it will do and default to is the hottest piece of the frame. It's the hottest part of the image. So you may want to think about cropping. So crop from here and down like this, as opposed to keeping that hot cutting board in the top. I think it would clean it up a little bit, and it keeps your eye from going to the top right. And let's see here. And then this one, again, this is a little bit more sophisticated photograph. It kind of almost looked like a composite in some ways, but you've obviously got Monica here in the background. You've got this in the foreground, which was kind of for a second looked like a second frame, but I love the hand coming up here. And I like this crop too on the little boy. I don't really need to see the rest of his head. I love this layer. You have one layer here. You have another layer. You have this layer, and you have her. And that's really the beauty of what a wide angle lens is there to do. And this is more of a medium tele, but it's to build depth in these two-dimensional images. So you're trying to add depth here. And I think that this does well. This is not an easy story. These are hard, like kind of one-off pictures to get, but I like the fact that you have 3 already. And my only real piece of advice there outside of the crop on the middle image is to look for, is to keep tiling these, keep building, try to get to 5 images, try to get to 10. And then you've got a nice little nucleus of pictures that you can start to, you can make a book. You see how easy I just transitioned into suggesting you make a book? Yeah, that's what I'm here. I'm a pro, people. I'm here to sell you on Blurb all the time. You all know that. So Thor, I'm assuming that's how you pronounce this name, Thor, Tor. I'm going to go with Thor because how cool is it to have a name like Thor? It beats Dan. Dan is kind of milquetoast compared to Thor. I've seen this work before, and I think it was in an earlier submission, but classic reportage. So this is about working dogs on farms in Australia. I grew up on a ranch in Wyoming that had working both cattle dogs, as in like dingoes and McNabs, but we also had border collies. So I love cow dogs. I think it's an amazing story, no matter if you're in Australia or the US or anywhere else. But Kelpies are the names of these dogs from Celtic folklore. And the first Kelpie was born in 1872. These dogs are not only used to work on the farms, but they help draft mustering and also livestock exchanges. Truck drivers use them. Farmers buy puppies and train them, but there's also specific breeders who also offer ready trained dogs. A well-trained Kelpie costs over $5,000, and there have been individuals that sold for much as $25,000. So my father's ranch partner won the National Border Collie trials with his dogs. So I know dog theft is actually quite a problem in the American West because a $25,000 dog is probably a pretty darn good dog. So I'm going to go through these quickly and then go back. First image, second, third, fourth, fifth, back to the first. Okay, black and white, consistent reportage. The aspect ratio, the frames are the same. It's all black and white. It's a very cohesive, easy to read story. That's what I like about this. I'm not looking at a square, a color square, a rectangle, a color rectangle. It's all cohesive. That's what I like to look for in a story. If you're submitting a story, if you're submitting individual images, that's another matter. I like the tilt here because everything in this frame makes me go like this. So it starts here with this little critter. I go along the edge of the truck here to this person who's, I would call this foreground, midground, background. And so all of these pictures do this. So this picture to me goes like this, which I love. And also this fence is replicating that. You also have a nice, strong, like diagonal element here on the skyline that's leading you forward. Eventually I get over here to these extra sheep, but for the most part with the ute, with the door open, dog's like waiting for this guy to give him a cue so he can go for it. I like this. And whoops, let me see here. Hang on. This one, again, look at where this goes. Look at where your eye goes, just like this, which is exactly what the photographer wants you to do. 2 black dogs anchoring the foreground, and your eye has no choice but to go just like this and eventually get to the guy. So I like this. And again, the fences and everything in this frame just pull you, they just pull you like that into this frame. Very nice. All right, hang on. My arrow key is not working here very well. So let me do something else here. Let me go here. And same with this. You've got black dog anchoring here. This makes a huge difference. With this coming back, they're having a little moment here. The dog's like, you're lucky I have a muzzle on. And the sheep's like, man, I'm lucky you have a muzzle on. But I like it. That's a beautiful, clean, look around the edges of that frame. There's nothing distracting around the edges. Okay, so I know what's happening here. I'm going to go here, draw. I mean, look at this. Obviously, nice. Got this little head popping in here. See how the rim light, this dog is rimlet. That's nice as well. Simple, clean. Look at all these. Look at the heads over here. Look at this whole, like, you know, the outfield here is like, man, I hope I don't have to go in that pen. And love this, but this is really the crux. Nice natural framing. And go to the next. This is the only one where there's things that, first of all, this is good use of a wide angle lens. Look at how close he is in the foreground. Foreground, midground, background. That's how you want to use wide angle. Maybe there's a little bit much of this in the foreground. Maybe I'd back this off to, sorry, go back here. Maybe I'd back this off a tiny bit to like here and get rid of this and have a little bit more action here. But really the crux of this picture is right here, is this dog going after this sheep. So maybe you could salvage that by cropping in a little bit here. That's kind of a nice moment. Not nice, you know what I mean? Yeah, so that is a really solid essay. Sorry, this got all displaced and resized, but again, a very cohesive look and feel on that Thor. Well done. All right, let me just take a quick break here and let's take one question and see if I can, what sequence would you arrange these reportage photos in? Oh, is this for Thor? What sequence would I arrange them in? That's a good question. I'm trying to find the other frame here. Let's see here. I would, I think that's the lead. This sets your location. You've got a human being in the first one, so I would probably go with an animal clip like this. And then I would probably, these are pretty similar, these two, this one and this one. So I'd probably go here. And then I would go here, and I might try to find something different at the end for this one. That's probably the sequence that I would do right there. This sets the scene. That's an easy read. This brings back the humanity. But arguably, you could swap those around, but that's my quick edit right now. Okay, we're going on to Jim. Okay, Jim's story is about appropriation, which is a really interesting topic. What does it mean to create something new in a world overflowing with visual information? Can a work of art possess a unique identity while openly incorporating the work of others? In this project, I investigate the relationship between originality and appropriation, inspired by the age of digital reproduction and remix culture. I explore the transformations of meaning that occurs when existing artworks are recontextualized within a new photographic composition. Okay, here's the thing, Jim. You walked a fine line very, very skillfully. So one thing that turns me off immediately is when I read an artist statement or a statement about a project and it sounds like it was written by someone who like has been trapped in an academic coal mine for their entire life. And within two sentences in, you're like, I have no idea what this person's talking about. I have to read those artist statements all the time. They're a turnoff. What you just wrote completely conceptualizes this for me. And now I know exactly what it is that you're trying to do. So I think your description of the story is really solid. I don't need to go through all of these image descriptions now, but let's just have a look at the imagery. And people inside of museums and galleries looking at work, it never gets old. It's especially in the age of the cell phone where half the time they're not looking at the work, they're looking at their phone, which I find hilarious. But what really makes this picture is a couple of things. One is you have a moment happening here. He's not just standing there. He's wiping his mouth because he probably just plowed through the buffet or the cheap wine area of the exhibition, which I love. Always a fun area. But also, it's almost like she's checking him out. Like, oh, geez, I've been holding this pose forever. And, you're just here for the hors d'oeuvres. But I like it. It's an interesting moment. Maybe, this exit sign at the top, I don't necessarily need, but it's not the end of the world. And this, again, this almost looks like a movie set. It's so bizarre where she's got direct eye contact with you, which I don't really care. I don't mind that at all. Some people are going to freak out about that. I don't care. She's like over it. And he's thinking, I need to flee the scene. But there's a nice, like, bizarre moment happening here. And by the way, none of them are looking at the work, which is what makes it, that's what makes it for me. This I love. Interesting. Lou Reed, looking pretty serious. You're in some subway, metro somewhere, and got the human element. Maybe I'm being a super picky and he's like just touching right here, but whatever. It's really about this. He just looks ticked off and he's like, what are you doing here? I like the energy of this picture. Again, weird people doing weird things at weird openings. What's not to like? Again, clean, simple. All these images, look how graphic and simple they are. Simple, clean, square, almost square, almost square. That's that weird format that YouTubers shoot stills in. I don't know what that is, but doesn't matter. Clean and simple, easy read. Again, wall of graphicness. I love the fact that her outfit kind of lends to this, the purple scarf and the stripes. I think it makes it jump from that section of the wall. Clean and simple. Again, and I think it's a really interesting topic that you should continue to investigate because, look at Richard Prince alone and what he's done with appropriation. And certain artists have made their entire career on it, while other artists who are equally successful would never think of doing such a thing. So I think it's always, always interesting. And now, my friend, you have an extra wrinkle, which is AI, because AI is appropriating all of us, whether we know it or not. And, I'm okay with it. I don't really care, but a lot of people do. So great topic. All right, Paulie Shapiro. Anything else going on? Any drastic messages here I need to know about? No, I think we're good. Okay, Paul Shapiro. Okay, Paul, so a couple of things. Look just overall, everyone, look at the consistency of these pictures, right? So there's a clarity, a consistency here. There is one photograph to me that is far superior to the rest, but I'll get to that in a minute. But again, cohesion. Shooting single images of random things is incredibly difficult. I've never been good at it. But for whatever reason, I never wanted to do it. I always worked in thematic form. From the day I picked up a camera, I was telling stories as opposed to individuals. There's nothing wrong with individuals. If I was good at it, I'd probably be doing it, but I'm not good at it, so I don't do it. And I like to tell stories, but I like to see cohesion in work so that what you're doing is you're asking the viewer to do less. If you mix formats and you mix black and white and color and you mix shapes and everything else, you're asking the viewer a lot. You're asking them to stick with you as you make all these changes. And sometimes that's too much. So Paul's lived a majority of his life near the majestic Atlantic Ocean. Favorite time of the day is early morning. It's the portion of the day when the locals fish, collect shells, surf, or just gaze at the ocean. Most of these activities end when the chaos of tourists arrives. My goal was to capture the meditative hour of the day. Well, I think you did that, Paul, but there's some kind of expected imagery here that I think could be better. And I think number one is, if I was you, I would move myself forward much, much, much closer, because inside of this frame, let me redo that crop. Look at this. That to me is interesting. Look at the water coming up, the splash, the moment. That's interesting. And because of the shadow, I know what the rest of the image is. I know it's a guy with a surfboard. But I think there's your photograph is inside of these wider images. Now, this one, same thing. I think you could probably crop in here. I think this sort of rock face in the background, this is kind of interesting in here, but I would probably move in and crop this a bit. There may be something even tighter in there that would work as well. And this is the one, to me, that's the most beautiful image. This is the one that works the most. And I think it's because the shutter speed you're using, I'm getting all this beautiful soft motion here that I really like. And the water coming through the rocks, I think that's really beautiful. And also, most of the time when you're shooting a long exposure like this, or longer exposure, you're going to lose sharpness on the guy who you hope that remains sharp. And you've nailed this guy. He's tack sharp. I love the little diagonal element of the fishing rod. This to me is beautiful. This is a really solid image. And I think it's better than all the rest of the images. Again, I think I would move in. I think this is, potentially there's a little something like this here that's a little tighter, But even like I'm looking at these ponytails coming down, these pigtails, and maybe there's like something even here. I think this is about you as a photographer moving closer to the subject matter. And I know that you said that the C is the thing, but I can still tell that's a C if I'm right there. So anyway, I just think it's always, you know, the bad cliche, even though it's not really a cliche. Robert Capa, if your pictures aren't good enough, you're not close enough. It's kind of that thing. I think as photographers, all of us have to do this. As especially documentary photographers, you need to lean forward and don't lean back. If you can take 2 steps forward, if you can take 5 steps forward, take them and get closer and closer and closer. Same with this. I think there's a little, I do like the pigeon right here or the gull right there. That's one crop idea. You could also do a crop like this to sort of anchor them on one side of the frame and the land in the other. Because we don't need too much C to know what's going on, but really your action, your moment is something that's happening right here. What's happening between this mother and daughter? Some transaction is happening. Who knows? Maybe it's fireworks. She's about to shoot a bottle rocket out into the ocean. I don't know. I'm just making it up. I don't have any evidence of that. But again, Paul, what I like is the consistency of the group of images and the fact that you have found something you love. You love the Atlantic Ocean and you love a specific time of day. Those are called parameters and borders on your project. And that's what all of us need to successfully move forward with a project is we have to be able to see the edges of the project. It's like when people say, I'm going to do a story about homelessness in America. Well, why don't you do a story about one person that happens to be unhoused or homeless because potentially they're representative of the larger story and you don't need to travel the country. You can just focus on one person. That gives you the borders of a project that you can identify and then work inside of. Okay, Eric, moving on. Okay, what did I just say a second ago? Consistency. So Eric here has a little bit more diversity within the frames of his work. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It just takes me a second to figure out what's going on here, which is where the text comes in handy. Hello, Dan. Hello, Eric. These are a few images from Blur Book I created, Passing Time. They're intended to show how people from various cultures might go about their day. It was my attempt at narrowing down the theme of people and is a work in progress. Aside from cropping and some minor exposure adjustments, I do very little post-processing. I appreciate your critique, Eric. So Eric, one, love the fact that you took the time to make a book. That's great. The book is going to force you to jump through all sorts of hoops that are going to make you think about the work in a different way. Now, here's one thing. You've got 3 black and white images. You have what looks like a toned black and white image, but it could be a color image just shot in light that happens to make it look like black and white. And then you've got a color image, but a bulk of the bulk of the image is kind of a monotone, which could mean this could be easily converted to black and white. I think if you had 5 consistently toned black and white image, it would sort of help you get the idea of the story across. Again, not 100% mandatory. Depends how you laid it out. Depends how you wrote it. But I would call this a classic street photography image. It's graphic, simple. You've got these lines here. Obviously, the one person perfectly lit with the shadow and their reflection in the glass over here. Also, just enough detail here in the old window here to make me wonder what's going on. Maybe there's something in there that I want to see. I don't know. I'm not judging. I'm just saying it could be interesting. I like that. There's a little bit makes me linger here over this part of the image. Got a little sign here, studio something or other. But again, clean, simple, graphic. It's what a lot of people are after with street photography. This one, all of a sudden, kind of a whole different take here. We look like we've got a Chinese ceremony or Tibetan ceremony, maybe. I don't know. I can't figure this out. But first of all, I like it. I like the smoke. Smoke's happening here. Very nice. She has a great expression on her face. Her eyes are closed. You've got just enough light coming down here to light up this little, it looks like a Tibetan prayer wheel thing. And also, some people would say, well, you know, this sucks. These guys are wearing a mask. I don't think so. If you're a documentary photographer, you don't get to pick and choose humanity, and you don't get to pick and choose your time frame. We grew up, all of us, no matter how old you are, we all grew up in the age of COVID. So that is a distinguishing thing up until this time frame of the modern era. This tells me time frame, which is important as a documentary person to be able to add those clues. I don't mind that at all. Simple. Same with this. I would probably, because there's no real detail down here, I would probably crop this because your last frame is a square. So why not turn this into a square? And then you don't need all this space down here. I think it's just getting kind of lost. With this, I would probably do the same. I would crop like this. I don't think the whites really, this is not doing anything for you. This is kind of distracting. And also look at the tonal range of this image. The blacks are not nearly as black as this or this or this. I would basically pull the levels down on this to make this, I want this to be a little black, a little darker. And oh, by the way, if I want to, I always look to find pictures inside of pictures. Whereas if you took 5 steps closer, look at this. Look at that. Look at that right there. That's pure gold right there. That's awesome. Because not only is that graphic and super simple and beautiful, but there is an emotion happening in that eye. That is not a casual glance. There's something else behind that has meaning to it. I don't know what it is, but there it is. You could also go here and use this as a vertical and just go over here, because I do also like this right here. I like her clasping that and pulling it forward. These folds are really beautiful. I like this a lot. And you have just enough of her face too where it works. I can just see a little bit of her eye. But yeah, I would probably go more into, and now that I think about it, you could crop this too. You could crop this into a square. I don't think this is not doing much for you. I think this is really a square. And then I would convert this to black and white, and I would bring the tones down. And then you've got, and this one I haven't looked at yet, but this is okay. I'm not as thrilled with this one. I've seen this kind of before, and I don't know. It's okay. It's not, I think your other stuff's better. I think these 4 together, toned and resized the same, you got something there. You got a little beginnings. And I like the idea of what your story is. I think that's cool, because that is something you can work on anywhere. I love stories that you can access anywhere. It's not like a story that you have to, the stars have to align for you to get there. Okay, moving on to Dominique. I was on a business trip to Toronto and spent some free time downtown. By the way, there are some Torontonians on this call. I know for a fact. I was on a business trip, spent some free time downtown, catching beautiful moments. It was the end of the day. Sunset was beautiful and it made great light. Okay. I know exactly what's happening here. You are so hungry to make pictures that you will go anywhere at any time to shoot because you're excited to make pictures. I know. It's a great feeling. I think that's why we're all here. So, picture number 1. You just have enough detail here. I see City of Toronto. Whoops, sorry. Hang on. Hold the phone. City of Toronto right there. Lovely. Obviously, this is the real crux of the pitch here. You've got the hair going back, which is awesome. Her legs up in the air. You caught a moment. That's nice. Plus, you got the great light and you have the natural framing. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nice picture, solid. One thing I would do is I would bump that contrast. It's flat. Picture's a little bit flat. I would go into those levels and I would just take that level a little bit, give it a little punch. That's what I would do. But we're going to come back to this one. Look at this one. Okay, consider that first picture. Color, look at that. The time of day. Look at this. Look at that star. Bam, blasting through. This looks fantastic. The light, you have a moment here happening. Lovers, you're like, you guys are going to make it. I feel good about this. Got some person over here. Who knows what that person's doing? It doesn't matter. I don't care. Because look at the color of this light, the direction of the light. You're shooting into the light. Very well done. I like this. Makes me happy. And then look at this. What's not to like? Could I crop a little bit? Yes. Could I crop a little bit? But, who doesn't like this? That color red. It's beautiful. It's awesome. But here's the thing, Dominique. What's this doing in here? This I don't get. This was the picture. I don't know. This doesn't work. It doesn't work for me. especially when you consider, look at the other three. Look at these. Look at these together. This looks great. Now, if this was some incredible moment of something happening, then okay, I would maybe consider it. But why a fourth image that's black and white when the other three are color? And there's not a whole lot happening here. I can see his breath, or he's smoking a cig and there's some smoke coming out, something, but that's not enough and it's too small. And there's nothing happening around here. That one I would cull. That one, this one has to go away. That has to go to that's in timeout in the corner because you have these three here. And I think I would probably do like, or like this. Maybe start with her. I don't know. I have to figure that out. These are the three for me. This one, not so much. But look, you're on a business trip. That's a win. If you got any pictures at all on a business trip, you're a genius. Okay, Andy Jackson. Andy, that's a famous name. The photographs I've submitted are part of my portfolio I've been putting together, all part of a show I have coming up in January. Well, Andy's got a show. Well done, my friend. These are also included in a printed portfolio put together into a Blurb magazine. Love that. Love magazine as a portfolio. The photographs range from 2019 to 2023. Descriptions, his influences are classic. Robert Frank, Gene Smith, Kudelka, Cartier-Bresson, list goes on and on. The classic, yes, we've all been polluted by the masters, which is a good thing. So Muscle Beach, I love this. It's simple, it's graphic, and it's layered. It's layered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your eye just goes like this all through this frame, which is what you want, because remember, everybody, we are competing for undivided attention. That's what we're after. So a frame that holds you. Love this too. These guys, nice little row of people going here. Simple, clean band members. They look exhausted. Again, I like this. This is the classic Cartier-Bresson sitting at the cafe, smoking a cig, having some coffee, and you decide to get this. It's okay. This is not my favorite picture, but it's okay. This, again, I like your thinking here. You've got a diagonal element here, dynamic element here. You've got motion. These people are off the ground. But I like the fact that you're saying, look, this is really the important point to me. The amateur photographer, the consumer, forgets all of this and just focuses right here. But you've sort of built this picture, which I like. It's pretty decent. This one, I think, is the outlier. I'm not entirely sure what's happening here. And frankly, I don't think they know what's happening here just by the looks on their faces. They're like, how did we get here? Who are we? And how did we get here? But like, to me, you've got this thing here, which is my eye goes right here. And then you kind of got this scene happening here. And then you've got this person and you got this filming. This guy's going straight to YouTube. He's got 5 million followers on YouTube. He's going straight there. And you have the couple. I do like them sitting in and watching, and I'm sure it's a performance, a play of some sort. I just don't know if all these elements combine right in the frame to make this work. It just feels a bit like a missed. There's a moment here, but maybe the frame before or the frame after, I would like to see. Again, let's back out here. Love this. Love this. This is really solid. That's good. This is the only one, Andy, that I'm kind of on the fence about. Not sure. But the thing is, it looks like you get around quite a bit. And it would be interesting to see a larger take of what you have. And again, remember what I was saying earlier, like just having a picture like this is just a really nice thing to have. Like that's a picture that you would print and frame, and that when people come to your house, they're going to take the time to go through this image and just look at all these little vignettes that's happening in here. So that's solid. Well done. Okay. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to go to Tanya. Wait a minute. Did I miss somebody? Nope. Tanya. All right, Tanya, what do we got here? I live in this is interesting. I live in a beautiful area. It's got grand vistas that have all been photographed to death. My collection idea is a series of, hey, that looks cool vignettes that people will probably have seen, but most likely not bothered to have been able to capture. Whether the weather conditions made people think it wasn't worth it, or they didn't have the gear ability to capture what caught their eye. Little glimpses that people who live here or have been here a lot will recognize. My thought is a smallish trade style zine book for people to enjoy as locals' view of a place, of a journal, what we used to call an autograph book for messages from friends and others. I like that. I also like the fact that you're looking to interface with your viewers so that they will interface with the book in a way that's not just flip through it casually. But again, there's 4 pictures here, just right off the bat. There's 4 pictures that fit and 1 that doesn't fit to me. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's a vertical, and it's looks like a street light, and there's a railing with snow on it. But this one, immediately I jump out and I'm like, not so sure. But let's take a look. So basically, what you have here is a combination of the grand vistas. And again, we've all shot these pictures. It's hard to make a picture like this where you go, oh my God, I've never seen this before. But there's things about this I like. For whatever reason, the way that these trees are lit right here is beautiful. I love this ridge line. And also you got some really nice cloud cover. And then just a little ridge line in the corner. Solid pick. Solid picture. This I love. Man tiny in the landscape. I love this. That's tiny. I mean, just even that is a nice photograph. That's great. I love it. Simple, clean. I think it speaks to your project. And this is this exact same thing. Tiny people in a massive landscape. Simple, clean, graphic. I like this a lot as well. And then you go back to the dramatic vista. This is the one that doesn't belong to me. It's snow, it's a fence, looks like a street light, maybe a stadium lights. Meh, not so much. I think this is a much more powerful project right here. Simple, clean. Just keep doing it. I love the minimal aspect of this, and I love the little taste of humanity in these grand vistas. Very nice. All right, Kurt. So Kurt, I've known for a couple years now online. I did not get to see you in Japan, which bummed me out, but I am coming back in 2026, so hopefully we can connect. By the way, Kurt sent 2 bodies of work. The other body of work was from the Naked Man Festival in Japan. And even though there were no naked men in the essay, I decided not to show it because I only chose 1. And I know that you've been working on this project with your son for a long time, so I wanted to show that. But Kurt, there's 1 picture in that other essay, the guy getting out of the water who's yelling. That's the gem of that series. There's some others that are good, but that's the gem, by the way. So this is a project. Kurt says, was it Bill Allard that said when you photograph, you cannot be indifferent. You either have to love what you're doing or hate it to make any kind of meaningful work. I love my son. I'm documenting his life. I photograph him every day. So I love that Bill Allard quote. Bill Allard's a Nat Geo photographer, by the way. He's an older guy who's kind of a legend in the documentary world. He also said, another quote was, you don't make a snapshot at a half a second. I don't want people looking at my work and saying they're snapshots. It's another quote I love. So what's not to like? The kid has good hair. You know, I have dry flyaway hair. This kid looks like he's got thick action hair. So I love the moment. I don't care about cropping. I don't care about exposure. I don't care about anything else other than the fact that this kid's having a blast and you caught it. Oh, I miss the food in Japan. Miss it. So again, little boys and gun toys, pretty common. I like the moment. Again, it's not my favorite. Like, to me, this is an okay picture. You're going to love it. It's your child. And I look at it and I can relate to it as a little boy. I was in that same position. I had the same kind of toy, although his is way fancier than mine, but it's okay. This, on the other hand, is a much more Kurt Gledhill photograph. This is kind of you putting your stamp on this project, which I like. This is much more graphic, much different. This is not a picture that a consumer photographer makes. It's not a picture that people would even think about. So I love this. It shows a level of sophistication. It's clean. It's simple. You could do a baby crop here to get rid of that white line, but I do like good across the bottom of his shirt. So I would make sure to keep that in there. But I think this is a great pick. It's really fun. Makes me laugh, even though he's serious. And then, you know, a little boy doing what little boys do. I think what works here is its action. I think this is a nice little move. He's hunched over and you have this nice little diagonal line down the wall that is kind of cutting off, you know, going right across where his head chops off perfectly. Nice little out of focus foreground here. It's simple, you know, kids are going to play. It's nice. But again, I think that's your gem of the story. Great moment. I would probably, again, this is a book about you. There's hardly, this is a book built for you. It's a book built for your family. It's a book built for him. And so you can get away with anything because the people who are going to want to see this book are going to go over every inch of every page. That's what family does. Most of the time, family does it because they're thinking maybe there's a chance that they're in the photographs and they want to see themselves. Let's be honest. That's what we all do. We're fragile people. But Kurt, that's good. And also your other project was good as well. So, all right, I'm going to keep going here. We got 10 minutes. So I want to make sure we get through. Pamela didn't give me a story here, but she just gave me titles of or locations of where they are. So we're going to jump in. Coney Island. We all know it. We all love it. And we never can get enough of it. Coney Island has been photographed 1,000 times. And now most of the hipster, like YouTube film photographer people, they've all found Coney Island and they love it, which is great because Coney Island keeps delivering. The places like people like Harvey Stein, Bruce Gilden, they sort of put a Coney Island on the map as photographers. So it's always worth going. I think this is a great moment. You've got a couple things. You got this mid-ground here, the foreground, obviously. She's checking her out like, what is happening? He can't even look. He's just looking the other way. He's like, can't handle it. Maybe a little crop here, like maybe up this I'm not sure this is really required, but it's not that distracting. So it's a lovely frame. It's funny. And also, it takes guts to wear that. This one, Pam, I think is okay, but not as strong as some of your others. This to me is a little more sophisticated. I like this. Again, on the ferry, you've got a reflection happening here. There's different layers, one here, one here, one here, and then the background in the city. I've seen a lot of reflection photos, but I think this one's pretty good because this face is really hard to miss. She's locked in on whatever it is she's doing. This is a lovely frame. I really like this. This could have been shot 40, 50, 60 years ago, except maybe for this right here, this plastic Starbucks cup. But look at the gesture, the arm out. Look at the beautiful light coming through, the color of the bench. Look at the overall tone. This looks like a ferry that was built in whatever, 1960 something. And then this just makes you feel like it's endless. You're going into this frame. And also you lucked out too. I mean, look at these folks. That's just awesome. His jacket, his turquoise jacket over the chair, his turquoise shirt, which also kind of reflects the tone in this room. That's a beautiful frame. I really like this frame a lot. This one, not happening. It's not enough. You got to be, we all do. Photographing kids is like low-hanging fruit. And what Kurt just did, photographing his son over and over again, that's one thing. Photographing kids sort of out in the world, it's not, it has to be stellar for me to really want to engage because, again, Pam, look at this. Look, when you have this and this and this, these are not in the same ballpark. These are much better. And if I had to keep eliminating, I would do these two. That is such a cool pairing right there. Like that is a fun, beautiful diptych that is, again, it could have been shot decades ago. And I just love that pairing. And this is what photography is about. It's about editing and elimination, and you have to be merciless. You have to get rid of things that you love to get where you need to be. Sandesh. This is from a series he shot in protests in Sri Lanka. And man, protests are not easy to photograph. But Sandesh, you nailed this first picture for sure. These are hard. One, the light is working just well enough. It's bright midday light, but there's a little like diffusion. You got some cloud cover. But look at how perfectly placed these faces are. You can see everybody's face. That is like so incredibly rare. I want to say it's lucky, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And I'm going to say you're the best photographer I've ever seen because this is great. But also look at the moment. Look at the tension on her face. Look at these arm gestures. This is a great moment. This is what photojournalism is supposed to be about right there. Great moment here. You've got this thing shattering whatever it is. Is this a Sri Lankan piñata? I don't know what it is. But look at the faces down here. Everyone is just rapt looking at this thing. So again, good moment. This one, this I like. This is hard. This is not easy stuff to photograph. Again, this works. you've got this major thing down the middle here, but then this gesture, these guys are like, please don't come over the barricades. And this people are like, yeah, we're going to act tough, but we're really going to come over the barricades. I like it. I've seen this picture before. I've seen this picture many times, but I like it. And it fits the part of the picture package. Again, this is nice. It's a little hard to read because of the light and this top part going away, but I can just see enough of this person's face to know that, I don't know, he's probably in trouble. And you got a little phone here anchoring in the right. This picture's, it's okay. It adds to the story a little bit. Maybe if this ran into paper, they would crop out that phone, but I'm being nitpicky. And again, let me go back to these overall. Yes, yes, maybe, yes. And yeah, I would probably leave that one in as well. This is probably the one that I would get rid of, and I would just go with these. But again, I'm doing this very quickly. I need to know more about the story. Okay, Nadine, we're ending with something very different here. Nadine is working on a project about challenging relationship with her mother who has passed away. I used her objects, old family photos, and self-portraits to explore the narrative. So this is a conceptual piece of photography, which is different from anybody else that submitted, which is why I put it in. And so again, this is about her mom. She's dealing with the passing of her mom through her mom's objects. It looks like Nadine's shooting some self-portraits in combination with pictures of her negatives or pictures of her mother in kind of similar situations. This could have been her mom's mink coat or whatever that is, but simple graphic studio lit. And this to me is the piece de resistance photograph. I think this is a beautiful photograph. If I just had this photograph and a written narrative of what you were trying to convey, I would be happy because I would look at this picture all along. I think this is a great pick. I think it's super nice. And this, again, when I see this, I want to go back to the written part of this story because I need you to fill in for me what I'm looking at here and why it's so important. But this picture I really like because we all get it. These are artifacts that were your mother's artifacts. My mom passed away in February. I was just in her bedroom a few weeks ago, and it's filled with her artifacts. This is how we remember the people that are no longer with us. I think this little vignette in particular is absolutely gorgeous. But if I just had this and this, I could be happy. I'm happy with just these two. That's really nice. That's really beautiful. I'm not saying that that's what you do, Nadine, but these two to me get the point across in a way that I think is really beautiful. So that's well done. Keep going. So, all right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we're back. We only have a couple minutes left. Man, I timed out. I had to go fast. So, but here's the thing. When you show your work at a portfolio review, you typically get about 20 minutes. And normally the person who's looking at your work is going to digest you really fast. They're going to look at what you're wearing. They're going to listen to your vocabulary, and they're going to wait for you to describe what it is you're doing and why. And that is critically important. So those written pieces are essential because they're going to look at your photography and they're going to know very quickly whether or not you could handle what they would assign. And then after that, you've got 19 and a half minutes to fill. And that's where things get interesting. That's where they learn more about you. And they learn that you're not just somebody who does this, that you're somebody who has something to say. It's really important. So yeah, everybody submitted, everybody that I chose, and there were at least 2 or 3 times as many people that submitted that I didn't get to. Don't get frustrated. We're going to keep doing these and you can keep submitting. And now remember, file size, naming your files, thinking about theme, consistency of your images. Yeah, everybody that submitted work, there was a gem in every one of those submissions, where if I could only pull a single image from each one, I'd be happy with that single image. And most of you had more than one. So that's a good sign. And remember, if you're new to this, these people whose gateway camera was a D800, you're kind of new to this game. So those of you who started with like, I don't know, cave paintings. Yeah, well, I expect more from you. So yeah, thanks again, everyone. And thanks again to the Blurb team behind the scenes, Michelle and Kara. And we are Look at that. 30 seconds left. Let me just see if there's anything quick in the love your insights. Where do you put the best image? First, last, or why? Ugh. I don't know. You asking me? No, I'm kidding. That's hard. Does the best image go on your cover? Maybe, maybe not, because maybe it doesn't tell the right kind of story, but it's essential inside. So oftentimes my best image is close to the front, but also my secondary best image is also close, oftentimes near the back. I want the narrative of the book to go like this. I want it to be a roller coaster. I want people to be sucked in, like that slow climb up to the top of the roller coaster where you're like, why did I get on this? To where it goes down. That's what I want the narrative of the book to do. I want it to be like a 3-act play. So your good has to be peppered throughout and not just blasted at the front of the book. That's it. I think we're good. Thanks again. I'll see you next time.